Welcome you all for this conference on the theme, the potential role of remittances in achieving the Millennium Development Goals. I have been asked by COS Utrecht to moderate today the discussion, but there will be some colleagues who will be also helping me to be able to ensure success of this conference. Without much ado, we have guests here this morning to give you to welcome and to give us a kind of introduction of this conference. So I would like to call on here Mr. Arthur Wiggers, the Secretary of the Board of Trustees of COS Utrecht, to give us an overview and expected outcomes of the conference. Mr. Wiggers is also the Deputy Director of BNG, which is the International Cooperation Agency of the Association of Netherlands. He will also mention something about COS Utrecht and the organization. So, dear Wiggers.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It's a great pleasure for me to wish you a warm welcome here in Utrecht at this important conference on the potential contribution of remittances to achieving the Millennium Development Goals. A warm welcome on behalf of COS Utrecht and also on behalf of Novib, the co-organizer of this event, and on behalf of our partners DFD, the Diaspora Forum for Development, and MIND, the Migrant Women Initiatives in the Netherlands for Development. Just before starting, I was asked to. I heard that it's not that COS is not a known organization for all of you. So, if you allow me, I will briefly say a few words about what COS is. COS is an organization based in Utrecht, working for the area of the province of Utrecht, and with the aim to promote, let's say, an active involvement of people, a better knowledge and understanding by people of international cooperation issues, international themes, which have an impact, of course, here in the Netherlands, but also in the countries where they manifest themselves. And COS, as I said, is focused on involving people in these issues, in enhancing knowledge and understanding. In that sense, it's different from, for instance, Oxfam Novib, in the sense that COS is not a donor organization. The acknowledgement of the importance of remittances has grown, I think, in the last few years. It's not so long ago that policymakers in international cooperation, and also the public at large, simply had no attention for this large stream of money to less or to least developed countries. I remember doing a research on the phosphate sector in Morocco some 20 years ago, and it was very clear that at that time the phosphate sector, together with agriculture, was one of the pillars of the Moroccan economy. And yet, at that time, the remittances were even more important in terms of the flow of foreign currency into Morocco. That was not so difficult to find out when you do such a research, but it was, let's say, remarkable that at the same time this fact was hardly ever discussed or mentioned even in discussions about our partnership, our relationship with Morocco, or about development policy in general. I don't know what brought about this change in, let's say, the perception of remittances, but from the position of COS Utrecht, I do know that in the 1990s, more and more, let's say, awareness grew at the local level that migrants or the diaspora were hardly involved in initiatives in the area of international cooperation. They did not participate in public meetings or debates on international cooperation. they were hardly represented in committees or in the constitutional bodies of organizations working in this field. And the conclusion then was easily drawn that migrants were not interested in international cooperation or did not really contribute to it. And then I think it became more and more clear that this was a very one-sided conclusion and not a correct conclusion. In fact, in financial terms, it became clear that the contributions by migrants was far higher, in fact, than the contributions made by, let's say, native Dutch people, generally speaking, of course. But even when policymakers became aware of the size of remittances, these were initially looked upon as not so relevant. Okay, altogether, it was a large sum of money, but in fact it was a private affair, a thing of individual families supporting their relatives in their home country, not relevant in the context of development policies, or even a bit suspect, because based on individual partnerships, relationships, and not on objective or rational choices as to whom to support or in which form. Not my opinion, that was how, in fact, at that time, remittances were seen. I think there's more recognition now for the impact of remittances on the living standards of a large number of households combined. And that things have changed or are changing is also shown, I think, by this conference. It's known now, apart from the impact that remittances have on the direct lives of people who receive the money from their relatives, it's also known that 20% of the remittances are set aside for savings and small business investments. And migrants and their organizations wish to develop mechanisms to increase the development impact of these or their contributions. Therefore, this conference has the following objectives. And having learned that with objectives you always have to be very precise, I want to read those objectives to make sure that we all have the same, let's say, idea of the program of today. The conference objectives are in fact three. The first one is to analyze and to understand how remittances and diaspora philanthropy can contribute to national development and achieving Millennium Development Goals, considering that remittances are private flows. The second objective, to come up with doable policy recommendations and mechanisms to stimulate productive and sustainable use of remittances, again not forgetting that migrants are the main stakeholders of remittances. And then the third objective, to identify potential and innovative North-South and South-South partnerships that enhance leveraging opportunities for mobilizing the development potentials of remittances for possible replication. As you will note, there is this important, let's say, awareness that remittances are not public. We're not talking about public money. So it's also, let's say, there are also limits to what extent you can, from a policy point of view, let's say, have an influence on this important stream of money. But it's interesting to see how that's how that phenomenon can be used, or how policy can in fact support the development impact of that stream of money. And discussing that today is our objective, and I think that we have there quite an ambitious agenda. And I'm very grateful, therefore, that the various people present here and their organizations, both from the Netherlands, but especially those who have come for the purpose of this conference to the Netherlands, that you are all represented here today, and that you bring with you this wealth of experience, your insights and your views, and I'm really happy to have us all here together to discuss this important issue, and I wish you an inspiring